Welcome everybody to our regularly scheduled meeting. I have one little presentation I would like to do. Our member, Clark Lauren, was out of commission here a while. So we know you're going to be back needing these in about 2 months. So in advance of you pursuing your
oil for my wheelchair,
pursuing one of your loves, we thought we would.
I have a love.
Yeah, a love of your sport.
Oh.
So once you're
I'll have to put these up somewhere.
put this for a couple months, then you'll be back.
Bag of balls.
Yeah, bag of. All right.
Thank you,
We
David.
know
That's
you
very-
love tennis,
That's
so.
very nice.
Well,
They won't
yes.
wilt. Flowers.
What's that?
They won't wilt as your flowers do.
No,
Okay, well, welcome.
Impressionless balls. They're actually pickleball.
Okay.
I mean, they could be miserable.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. We need our money.
Oh,
All right. Well, welcome everybody. I'm David Lough. I'm president of the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association. Welcome to our regular monthly meeting, and to those of you on Zoom, welcome to you folks too. Getting right into things, I think we have everybody here. We have a full quorum, so we'll declare a full quorum and get going.
We can thank our guests for that, I'm sure.
Yes. A big draw, Mark. Huge. Okay. Moving on, the next order of business is approval of the minutes, which were circulated yesterday. I'm sorry we got those out late. Were there any edits, comments, concerns about those?
Move is written.
Move is written. Is there a second?
Second.
Got it, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimously adopted. And Clark, back to you for the treasurer's report, and I think you have some
okay.
a
Well,
little bit encouraging news.
the
for us.
treasure chest is starting to fill up. We've got $16,057.95 in our bank account at the Seacoast.
Okay.
Seacoast
And
Bank.
as those of you would know, it's kind of front loaded at the beginning of the year, and that'll bleed down over the course of the year, and it bled down pretty well last year. So let's not get giddy with enthusiasm here and go out. Yes, sir.
And just a quick update on the membership. On the condominium side, we have about 85% renewals on that, and we're pursuing the few that are going to the final stages on their renewals for that. And then working with Jamie and others on the associate members, their renewals and some upgrades to the plan.
Right. So I think our season has gone pretty well, and pleased about that. So we'll keep looking for some other new members. I'm hopeful, for example, the BASO, once they do turn over, that we'll get another member from Quay. With that said, I would like to introduce Mark Smith. Mark, as it turns out, and I had about an hour and a half coffee yesterday, and it was really good to get to know him better. We both learned that we're both originally from Detroit. So with Ken in the way here, we've got a Michigan-friendly group. Mark endured my Disco 101 elements with some charts and spreadsheets, trying to further familiarize him with our growing group of about 12,000 residents downtown. Mark, I think a very interesting guy with an architectural background, passionate about Siesta Key, has served in the Siesta Key community and Chamber of Commerce. He was very active in the Girl Scouts of Costa Rica, very active in their building program, if I'm not mistaken. So I've watched Commissioner Smith in action on occasion at the county. And it occurred to, I can't remember if this was Ken or somebody's idea to potentially invite county commissioner, our county commissioner, to speak, further acquaint him with us, and where we have some shared interest in goals. Mark and I spent a fair amount of time talking about mobility, connectivity, transportation alternatives, which the county is running kind of lead on. We talked about TIF and some of the Performing Arts Center parking needs to the extent that there's an overlap between county responsibilities and so forth. So I've asked Mark, as is common practice, to maybe speak 10 or 15 minutes and then another 15 minutes of question time. So let me turn it over to you, sir.
Okay.
Welcome to DSCA.
Well, thank you. David, I think you take my entire speech, so thank you very much. Are there any questions? I will let you know that I am an architect, and I did run for county commission in 2010 against North Patterson when we were in a recession. And so my phone stopped ringing sometime around 2008, as folks weren't looking for any architectural work. And so a bit naive, I said, okay, running against an incumbent. I tell folks running against an incumbent, it's easier to take out your own appendix than to take out an incumbent. And so, but it was, I'm a Republican, and I got 44% of the Republican vote countywide against a lady that had been in office for 20 years. So I think that's what encouraged folks to ask me to run this time, which, of course, again, I said no. Again, why would I want to do this? I'm an architect on CSTP. I've got a beautiful wife, and but Christian Ziegler had decided not to run, although he's keeping it secret for a long time. So I said, okay. I thought that having an architect on the board would be a real service to both the county commission and to the citizens of Sarasota, because of my background in planning and design and permitting construction. And so I feel I bring something to the table. Sorry, I didn't mean to have my back to the folks here. I'm not sure where the camera is, but anyway, it's worked out well. It's been an experience. I've been on a few, well, won 4 votes, but as I've said, I can't help it if the other 4 are wrong. But anyway, you know, what's amazing, I grew up in Sarasota. My family moved here from Detroit in 63 when I was 8. And so I've grown up here. So it means a lot to me to represent you all. And we've seen an incredible amount of growth. We are literally victims of our own success. I mean, downtown in the 70s, I don't know how many of y'all were here then, but you know, it was, you could roll a bowling ball down Main Street and not hit anybody. And it's really because of the condominiums and you all living here and those before you that revitalized downtown, because the shops and the restaurants and all, they need you all. You know, it's a very symbiotic relationship. And as we all complain about congestion and all, those of us that remember the 70s in the mall, you know, the mall, that was a big thing in the 70s, the malls, you know. And that's what sucked the life right out of downtown. Now it's the reverse. You know, downtown is sucking the life out of the malls, and now the malls are being closed down and used for other purposes. So you all won that tug of war, and congratulations, because every great city has a great downtown, vibrant downtown. But with it comes the challenges of mobility, affordable housing, and that's, I will say that I believe the city, excuse me, is ahead of the county as far as addressing affordable housing. And I commend you all for that. It's tough because, you know, I'm a capitalist and I believe in the market, but I also understand that if we don't, and I brought this up at DSCA against talking to developers that are planning out east. I asked them, do you have housing for the folks who are gonna be working? And they're usually silent on it. And John Thaxton, who you may be aware of, he has a great formula, something like for every, 200 homes, you need 10 affordable working housing, you know, and I've brought this up before to developers saying, well, why not? Why not? Why not have a section that is affordable? It doesn't, these are folks that are working in your community. I mean, if you want a carpenter or a plumber or just the folks working at the local market, they're right there. And having your workforce there that would make them part of the community. And they'd be proud to be part of that community. And I said you could have a corral, you might say, an area that you could park the trucks. We don't want to see the electrician's truck in the parking lot. But, you know, similar to Siesta Beach where we have a maintenance yard, you park the vehicles there, and then, you know, when the day starts, they get their cars and they'd be right there. I mean, what we're, Esther and I are fortunate enough to live on Siesta Key. I bought back at the end of '93 when you could get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with an in-ground pool, walking distance to Siesta Beach for $155,000. Anyway, that was then. This is now. I told Esther we can't afford living, but anyway, but what that does is it takes the traffic away. If you have the folks you need living right there, they're not going up and down Clark Road or Bee Ridge or on the interstate, coming from Manatee County or down south. And one of the items that you probably, or issues that you all experience, like we do on Siesta Key, we call it the island rate. If you need something done, like a refrigerator fixed or, you know, anything, we pay the island rate. You know, it's the time it takes to come out. There seems to be a bit of an upcharge. But all of North Sarasota County is because all the construction down south, in Welland Park and Northport, the folks that were our workforce don't need to leave there anymore. And then Bradenton has got, you know, the Manatee County's going crazy up there, and so the workforce doesn't need to come to Sarasota. So we're stuck in the middle, you know, those of us in Sarasota County. So it's extremely important that we have this affordable housing, and make it part of the fabric of our community, because they're not looking for a handout; they're just looking for a place to stay. And our youth, our daughter, came to Washington D.C., came down, thought she'd like to move back to Sarasota. She grew up here, graduated from Riverview. She couldn't find anything, and she had a good paying job. And so she actually moved back to Washington, D.C., which I thought was unusual. But in Washington, D.C., they have apartments and condominiums that are geared towards the younger people. They have activities. They have a common floor for folks that are working, like my daughter, remotely. Excuse me. And so we need housing like that, you know, that will cater to the younger folks, because we need them. I mean, as you say, shared with me, David, all the youth and that we don't have. I'm 68, and apparently I'm the average, you know, and so it's that's a little scary when you think about it. And so, and the mobility thing I wanted to mention is David had brought this up to me about having perhaps a shuttle or something like iRide going around the condominiums and linking everyone together. I went up to Tallahassee. I'm on the Florida Association of Counties Board of Directors. And I met with one of the secretaries of the Department of Transportation, and I said to them, thank you, Doug, again. that downtown Sarasota, because of its growth, because of all the folks that are here and the folks that are coming online, that a system, a low-speed vehicle type service that would basically circulate through the downtown area was needed. We have, Sarasota County has On Demand, which has been very successful in Lough Key. Had petitioned the county, both counties, actually Sarasota and Manatee, to extend it into the Manatee County side of Lough Key, and we're just now doing that. But this is a different animal. This is basically a system that would be here. It's like I say, similar to Underwrite. Anyway, I was very encouraged to hear from the Florida Department of Transportation that there may be a grant in there for us to pursue that would have some startup money that might keep this thing going for 3 years until it catches on. So we're going to pursue that on the county side of transit. So I think that about covers it. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes, sir.
Yep, Peter?
Could you just speak to a minute the county's position on mental health services in the county? I know we ran into a situation earlier on where it seemed arbitrary and capricious that the council just did away with it for a while and then had to reapply it and go back. And we're very concerned, at least some of us on this committee, and we have a homeless outreach committee, that affected that group very severely.
Well, you may recall that I was the one. In fact, when I run for re-election, that's going to be my slogan. I'm the one. Been on the losing end on a number of votes. Mental health is a serious issue, and I'm trying to put this delicately, and because we are being recorded, that I believe that the outcry that the county commission felt after basically we shut off funding to a lot of folks. In my review of, I mean, I've been on the job for a year now, and at that time I was less than that. So I was trying to play catch up a bit. And what I found is that when reviewing all the different agencies, all the different health and human service agencies, and then the ones that didn't get their funding, that it's a team effort. It's you know what they say, a chain is as strong as its weakest link, and the county commission successfully took links out of the chain. If you read their applications, they talk about, one of the questions is, how do you work with other services? And you know, what makes you different and what makes you similar? And you could see how they each rely on each other, because you know, some may be helping teens, others more families, others more adults, others dealing with housing, others dealing with food, you know, all the different aspects of human services. And I believe strongly that the reason you have advisory boards is to take your advice. One of the, and Ken may agree with this, is that when you become elected, it doesn't make you suddenly smarter, but you're put in a position to make decisions that in some cases, maybe you are outside your educational background, your personal background, your life. So, I mean, as an architect, I rely on my consultants, the engineers, the surveyors, you know. Architects know a little about a lot of things, and engineers know a great deal about a smaller spectrum. So you rely on your consultants when, you know, we're designing and creating. Well, I feel the same way as a county commissioner. I don't know everything, but I know what I know, and so when you have folks on your advisory boards that are experts in the field. I take that seriously. And so I believe the approach should have been to let everything go through with the funding that was agreed to. And then if you want to revise the system, you do it in the off season, you might say, and get ready for the next time instead of changing the rules in the middle of the game. But I believe we're getting there. Again, this is being recorded, but what I've told the folks that from the different agencies, the best way to get something approved is to take the approach of how you're going to save the taxpayer money. Because heaven forbid if government was supposed to help people. So if you just say we're supposed to save the taxpayer money, you got a better shot at getting your program.
Thank you.
So, Judy.
Thank you. Yesterday, I went to a marvelous lecture at SIL. You know, you all know about SIL. And the fellow who spoke is an expert on climate change and what's going to be happening because sea level rise.
Right.
In fact, he made the statement, I hope I'm remembering correctly, by 2040, that's not that far away, there will be no beach on Siesta Key. You've probably heard these.
Sure.
Sort of. So I'm just wondering, what is the orientation of the county commission to doing things to assist in, as the speaker said, it's not, you can't turn back the clock, even if we stopped doing all the carbon production.
Right.
What we have to look at is adaptation, because reversal's not going to happen.
Right.
So I'm thinking about what is the adaptation orientation of the county commission, thinking like raising road levels and so forth. I would recommend anybody you can get an audio recording of that presentation. It was really terrific through SIL. So I'm sorry, end of speech making. Could you tell me of what, is it talked about? What planning's going on?
Well, I will tell you that when my first strategic planning meeting, December, after I took office in November, you may or may not know this, but the FEMA flood maps have been newly adopted.
Yeah.
And they actually lower the base flood elevation in Sarasota County. On Siesta Key by a foot, in some places more than that. And so I thought it would be strategic that perhaps Sarasota County would adopt a design flood elevation similar to Holmes Beach, Brighton Beach. So that you would actually add 2 feet, say, to the base flood elevation to make it more resilient, to make new construction more resilient. Staff made a report and presented it to the county commission, and it was another 1-4 vote. And so, but I was looking at the AI Florida website, and there is a bill, actually 2 bills, one in the Senate, one in the House, that they're basically identical, that will allow individuals and businesses to voluntarily build higher than the base flood elevation and not be penalized on building height, because building height is set at the flood elevation or at the Florida Building Code. Florida Building Code is 1 foot of freeboard above it. So anyway, they have a bill going through there that will allow individuals, and I since it's in the House and the Senate, I'm hoping it's going to go through. So I'm watching that carefully, so that individual businesses and property owners, because it's not just on the beach, it's also, as we saw with all the rain that we had inland. If you're on a pond or a lake or a river, there's a good chance you're going to be flooded. Folks that never got flooded in this last hurricane. So resiliency, and as you may or may not know, northern part of Sarasota County is higher than the southern part. And Charlotte County, last I heard, this is a while ago, doesn't have any evacuation shelters because they're all below flood. So something to think about. So so we need to think about, and I brought this up to staff. We have to think about resiliency of the services, county facilities and things like that, like the roads. And Dr. Tomasco, I don't know if you know Dr. David Tomasco. He heads up the Sarasota Bay Estuary Program. Well, the other commissioner who just came in here, she wrote a beautiful piece. I thought she had written it. It was actually from Dr. Tomasco. I thought she was brilliant. She is brilliant. But this piece is on the rising water that we're going to be experiencing isn't necessarily from melting ice. It's actually from warmer water. And as we all remember from our science classes as children, as you heat water up, it expands and eventually turns into steam. The rising seawater temperatures is causing the molecules to expand. And that's what we're dealing with. It's the warmer water. So whatever your reason is for why you believe the water is warmer, whether it's man-made or God-made, it doesn't really matter. It's happening. So we have to live with it.
Kathy.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Earlier, you had mentioned that the county is just a little bit farther behind the city regarding affordable housing. And I was wondering if you could just talk to what you think those reasons might be, or, are there roadblocks, or what do you see as the biggest obstacles, or why that is? Just explain it a little bit. I'm just trying to understand that.
It has to do with apparently, it was a lawsuit or a threat of a lawsuit that if you require, the government, if the county requires affordable housing as part of the development, then you have to make the developer whole. And that means that they can't lose money, by putting in that. But what the issue that I have with it is that if let's say a developer has a piece of property that allows his, let's say 13 units an acre, and they want a special exception to a different zoning that would allow, say, 26 units an acre, double the density, then you can only ask, at the time, you could only ask for 50% of the difference.
Yeah, I guess I was more on wanting to know what the city and the county, why is there?
Well, I just know trying to get it in the county, this is what I'm running against.
Okay, got it.
The city apparently is smarter than us, and so they've been able to get around it somehow. But there also doesn't seem to be the urgency in the county. I mean, you all here are living on top of each other. You know what I mean? We're still spreading out. Once we get to be like Pinellas County, when everything is paved, then there'll be an issue in Sarasota County. But until we have that, I don't think there's a sense of urgency that we should have.
Patrick.
Mark, real quickly, based on your career expertise as an architect, have you been attending the Sarasota Architecture Sarasota series?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question related to that then. We are in fact doing a workshop based upon results of that, and of course that's focused on downtown Sarasota, but we want to look at what's next after that. And as an architect, obviously, what we hear oftentimes from planners and architects is highest and best use. Right. Build as high as you can and cram as much as you can. But I'm sorry.
Well, I agree, but
but one of the things we're looking at is how do you, as an architect, balance form over function and consider the human element in terms of people that live there, the people that are around there. So can you give us some feedback from what you've seen from the presentation so far? You see something coming out of that might give us some directions as to how we can help guide our city in that area, since they also have similar background experience, training, architect, et cetera.
Sure. Well, that's a difficult question because it's very hard to legislate good taste. And that's impossible. So you can write all the codes you want. as far as proportion, height, color, fenestration, all that wonderful stuff. And you still get, we don't point fingers at certain buildings downtown that aren't as people-friendly as you might want them to be. So there are good professionals and there are less good professionals. And so a lot has to do with the design team you're putting together. Dwani made an interesting observation, and I was at the meetings when he was here originally. And so I was anxious to hear what he thought about, I felt like, Dr. Frankenstein coming back and saying what he had created. But no, I like downtown Sarasota, don't get me wrong, but there's, if you remember Sarasota 23 years ago when he was here, what we have, I was curious as if this is what he had in mind, and not really to my surprise, basically said it was, what are you gonna say, no? And the check's already cleared. No, but I believe what makes Main Street is the scale. And, thank God y'all have saved Main Street, I don't know for how long. But, because Sarasota, the city, is such a wonderful place to live, people want to keep coming. And so so what are you going to do? You want to drive them away? Like I said, we're victims of our own success. But I would suggest, and you guys can't do it, maybe you if you decide to build another condominium, but just make sure that you hire good design professionals. Look at what they've done in the past. And have them be receptive to their surroundings. So that they're in scale with both their neighboring buildings and the folks that are on the street. It's real important. Sorry.
We have limited time. I wanted to ask some things about mobility and transportation. So Victor, go ahead. But
when Dwani spoke, he stressed the importance of youth.
Right.
He stressed the importance of smaller units in order to attract people.
Sure.
Out there in beautiful, picturesque Sarasota County, out east, is that one of the things that you're looking to do and to try to develop those smaller units?
Well, we have a half density unit that's on the books now. I think it's 750 square feet, a half unit. And it's been somewhat successful. We have one that's on Beneva. I haven't had a chance to go through yet. But what the problem is that you can have smaller units, but if you don't reduce the price, we haven't done anything affordable. We just made small units. So it's and I lived in Atlanta for a number of years, and what I experienced there was that there was a building boom, and then the market absorbed what was built, and then there was a shortage for a while, and then another boom. Well, here in Sarasota, we haven't had, we seem to be on the accelerator all the time. They just keep coming. We'll go Fantasia with, Mickey Mouse in the basement with brooms. We're not catching up. And so I don't know if we're ever gonna, eventually, we've got to hit a point. Unfortunately, it's usually like recessions or something like that, then everyone's hurting. And nothing's affordable because nobody has any money. So I would like to see some way that we get into a contractual relationship with these folks that want to build out there so that they have to keep things affordable, much like the city, for 30 years, 40 years, or whatever. Unfortunately, if it's only 5 years, investors will buy them, wait the 5 years, and then sell them at market. And so the families never get a chance. I'm not sure I answered your question, but it's a tough nut to crack.
what I'd like to focus on the transportation thing you and I talked about yesterday, and that is again, with the real opportunity between the county and the city. We talked about the number of units
Right.
being developed and the concentrations being like at the Quay or out east at Maine and 301. What, from a process standpoint, help us think, we have a committee that's looking into this as far as our relationship with county and city staff. What kind of advice would you be providing as far as process of us interacting and trying to come up with some opportunities and solutions to this mobility thing?
Well, I hopefully started the ball rolling when I met with Jonathan Lewis and told him, the FDOT was willing to, help us here. And he had suggested to me that should be a topic of discussion when the county and the city have a joint meeting here, whenever that is. I keep asking for it when it's going to get scheduled, and I haven't gotten it yet, but apparently it's very good.
The one I have,
But anyway, is the city and the county working together. And Jane Grog, the director of transit for Sarasota County, is a wonderful person. If you ever had a chance to meet her. We just did ribbon cutting for the trolley coming from SRQ to the downtown hotels, which I think is going to be a big success. When we have that meeting, I would invite you all, perhaps, not all of you, that's wrong, just you, David, no one else, to show up and express your thoughts and wishes. Because the need's there. I mean, you've given me all the graphs and the numbers and it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal success, and it's scary at the same time, isn't it? It's overwhelmingly wonderful.
Yeah.
But
let me close off. I have had contact, and there is some discussion about the expansion of the zone for the on-demand.
Sure.
As maybe a Band-Aid or a test. So
well, I don't know about Band-Aid. It works great.
Yeah.
But I think smaller vehicles scooting along, it makes more sense. If you just want to go, 5 blocks down the way, I'm not sure you need a on-demand take you there. You really just need a scooter a little bit. Oh, and those scooters are wonderful. Have you all got on those? No, of course not. No.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to pursue that, and we'll keep you in the loop and see where this all takes us. But again, I think this idea of connectivity, and make it, whether it be a water taxi or these to iRide or on-demand kind of things, I think is a real opportunity as time has come.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Thank you for coming.
Well, thanks for having me. Anytime.
You're welcome to stick around or kind of scoot in. I'm sure.
Thank you. What time's
okay. All right.
This will allow you all to talk about.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay. And I wanted to welcome Commissioner Aaron Cox to join us, and recognize you for being in attendance as this case most of the time. So
sorry, I was late.
We appreciate your time. At this time, we have a couple new associate members, and I don't know if we have Lough Construction. Or Lough Construction? I'm sorry, sir. Okay, and you sir, if you just what we normally do is we would take a vote to accept you as a member, and we also have another member, Altez Vacations. Okay, sorry, sir. May I make a motion to accept these two organizations as associate members, one at the gold and one at the silver level association?
Second.
First and second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Did the checks clear?
Pay with a card.
Sir, may I ask you to just a minute or two to introduce your firm and tell about yourself, please?
I'll come this way so I have to break their neck. My name is Zaki Matthews. I'm here on behalf of Dual Reconstruction and Tailored Reconstruction. They've now merged together. I am the relationship manager / marketing director for the company. I'm originally from Georgia. I'm one of the young guys that he was talking about. I'm 43 years old. I've been back and forth in Sarasota now for the last 10 years. I managed a couple banks, everyone's favorite bank, Wells Fargo. So I was at Wells Fargo for a number of years. I work with a number of nonprofits, grant writing, different things like that. But that's my spiel. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for your membership.
Yes.
And then the Altus Vacation.
Behind the table.
Okay. Sorry, yes, sir. Hi.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. First of all, let me make clear, Altes Vacations is a Sarasota-based and headquartered woman-owned business. As a matter of fact, that young lady over there in the black and white is Kara Altais Montez, and she is the CEO and founder of the business. For 8 years, Kara has grown this business from just a concept to one of the leading companies in terms of property management. Kara actually had a career from entry level right up to achieving C-suite level of management level positions with some of the world-class hotels. When she retired from an early retirement from some of those organizations, she identified a need where investment owners, property owners were being underserved in terms of quality, ethics, and so forth. And she has built the company on exactly those foundations. I don't know how many of you have ever worked for somebody and you could sit back and say, I was proud to work for that company, for that person. I can tell you, I am proud to work for that person. I am proud to work for the company, and that's why I'm here with confidence for you today. I owned a company for 33 years in New York, and one of the things that my employees always said as they left was they were proud to work for me. And after failing at retirement twice, it's a problem. I came down here, and I really struggled to find a company to work for that had quality and ethics and so on and so forth. It took me about 2 years, and I found that company. So what I'm telling you today is we are a company that is focused on absolute hyper-focus service to our clients. Our investment properties are key to Karen and her staff. She is mindful and watchful of the organization every single day and sits at the desk and receives any question and issue that needs to be addressed. So in terms of Home Watch, which is our latest division in addition to property management, Home Watch and Concierge Services, which was a division that we created out of demand from our clients that said, yes, you do a great job of taking care of my property in terms of property management. When I'm out of town, which is a lot, I need somebody to watch over the property. So we developed a Home Watch and Concierge property management company. I'm proud to say we are accredited by the National Home Watch Association Organization of America, which means every single one of our inspectors is trained and background checked and so on and so forth.
Great. We welcome you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to, we've got some new member reps that I'd like to, Bob Firth, you're taking over he's going to be involved in the Bay Park liaison work. Gail Knight, is Gail here? Gail is with the Tower Residences of Ritz Quay. Jim Long, I know, is here from the Mark. Jim, welcome. And Beth Ruger. Is Beth Ruger?
It's actually Richard Ruger. I'm here.
Oh, hi, Richard. How are you? Welcome.
I'm doing good. Thank you.
From Plaza 5 Points. So,
yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Next item, new business. The DSCA mission statement. There was a little bit of conversation about that of late, and to be honest with you, I'd like to defer discussion of that to a later time. I just want to acknowledge that I had been reminded by Peter that the mission statement was just
It's less than 3 years old.
3 years old, so I didn't.
And it went through a very comprehensive review.
Right, okay. So let's delay any further discussion as is for any reason to revisit that at the moment. Old business, call for board of director nominations. Patrick, I know you've been doing work on that. You are our expert on that field between you and Peter.
So the members' meeting has been set for April 3rd, and we send out an official notice of the members' meeting in advance of that, usually a month and a half to 2 months out. And in that, issue a call for nominations for the board of directors. Of course, we take nominations anytime throughout the year, but this is part of putting together the slate of officers, and that's the key thing that we want to send out. So I have drafted that. That's in review here among the executive committee folks to take a look at that. For that, I'll let Jamie talk further about the event itself. That's being formulated, but essentially we want to get the notice out of the event, where it's being held, the times for that, and at this point, at least a topic for the, what do you call it, town hall or something is the kind of the main main core of that meeting, besides the perfunctory members official gathering. So that's where it stands, and as soon, hopefully we'll get that out before the end of this week on that. We have other event stuff that has to get out first. So that's where we stand on that. I have been pleased that we've had comments from some of the property managers, member reps, updating the list of individuals. And that's one of the things that we will also be trying to look at. Both Judy and Kathy have talked about putting together a member rep training, and we might be able to put something together before the members meeting, possibly a Zoom call, where we could give some background on expectations around what our member reps look for, what's involved, how else they can give help with that, and also how we can support them better in communicating to the residents within their own communities. Stay tuned for that, and we look forward to feedback from that. We're trying to find ways to engage too, some Q&A as we go forward with it.
Okay. Thank you. President's report. I think most of my remarks I'll make within as we go through the agenda. I will tell you, I circulated the latest construction estimates here a week or so ago, and you can see the beat goes on with, roughly 1,000 units under construction and 1,500 more on the way. So I'll make some comments as we get a little further along. Kathy, between you and I, was there anything?
No, the only other thing that was just at the city commission meeting this past week, it was just a presentation, nothing formally talked about, but was this city aisle proposal by Ken Thompson. So that is being looked at. So that proposal will hopefully be coming forward, or a discussion will be had about that. But it involves a water taxi and other things going on remote is. And so anyway, that is all going to be forthcoming.
Yeah, okay. I think what I heard was the discussion about the water taxi maybe integrated more with the county and line boat. And maybe I don't know what the opportunity would be as far as this on-demand service or iRide type thing, looking at mobility or transportation in a broader sense, but to be continued on that.
Was there something also mentioned about a commercial entity at Thompson Park?
Yes.
And then a commercial park of some
Yes.
sort?
There was discussion about, being a public park, yet would we have places there, commercial for profit entities there. Counter to that was when we have parks that have those in them, such as Payne Park at the little cafe. So there was discussion about that, but I think it's that's where it is. It's up for discussion and being looked at.
I thought I read that it might be referred to the Parks Recreation. Parks
Yes,
Recreation Committee Board.
absolutely, yes.
So, as soon as we see that agenda, we'll try and make sure to get that notice out. Be aware of that and read the background, be educated, and then make appropriate meaningful comments.
Moving along, Ken, on arts and culture.
Sure. On January 29th, the ad hoc Van Wezel committee met, and the major part of the meeting was taken up with a presentation by the Bay, which was really informative. It was a great presentation, and there were 2 points that came out of it that I think are worth mentioning to us. One was, I don't think many people knew that Renzo Piano was selected to do the architectural design for the new hall, was not licensed to work in Florida. And when they found that out, there was a little panic, but anyway, that issue has been resolved. And there are now discussions going on with him about a contract, so that's a plus, thank goodness. The other thing that came out of the Bay presentation was the effort that they're going to make the park more resilient from a flooding perspective. They're in the process, particularly in phase 2, of removing as much of the hardening along the bay shoreline as they can, and to elevate the land 8 to 9 feet so that the land can be more absorbent and more resilient in the case of flooding. So that's a very interesting point of view, and there'll be more further inland. I don't think all the design is in place yet, but that's a very encouraging thing in terms of flooding. The one problem will be the Van Wezel, because Van Wezel can't be elevated, and it's 12 feet from the shoreline. And there's truck loading dock right adjacent to the shoreline behind the building. So that's going to be a challenge. We've had some email exchanges in the last couple of days about the city's property insurance costs. And one of the things that I didn't know was that 27% of that cost goes to the Van Wezel, is attributed to the Van Wezel. That's a hell of a lot of money to the Van Wezel, which tells us that there are risks with the Van Wezel that we don't appreciate. So what I did was that I forwarded that information to one of the committee members and suggested that it might be appropriate to have that as a discussion item for a future committee meeting. I don't know whether anybody else has seen it, but I went to the Oslo Rep and saw Inherit the Wind last week. It is powerful. It is unbelievably relevant to today. It's about the Scopes monkey trial, and a lot of my friends said, I don't want to go see that old saw because I've seen it before, and it's not relevant. Well, it is. It is so unbelievably relevant to what's happening in Florida politically right now. So go see it. You'll be astonished. Next month, Mary Bensel is going to be our speaker, and I've asked her to talk about how productions that come to the Van Wezel have changed technologically and its production values that create challenges for the building. For example, Lion King came a couple of years ago. It's a huge show. And it was so big that when they had scene changes, they were taking the scene off the table or off the stage and putting it in a truck. They couldn't store it off stage. So it'll be interesting to hear what she has to say about that.
Good. All right. Jane.
So our next workshop is on March 20th. It'll be at the church again. Sensible, smart, and sustainable development, shaping downtown Sarasota in 2024 and beyond is the title. We have 3 city officials that will be speaking, and we also are kind of going to piggyback a little bit off the architecture speaker series. Howard Davis will be there as well, and also Heather Casson from the Sarasota Chamber of Commerce, and Kevin Cooper will be moderating. And there's the flyer.
And we've got a pretty decent sign up for this. far out.
22 so far. We sent one flyer out.
Okay.
So pretty decent so far.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Judy, it would be on the website under events.
Okay.
Oh, that's.
All right.
Okay, that's it, okay.
Yep.
Green space, Patrick, health and safety, Patrick and, Peter and Kathy, or?
As you know, Kathy, is it all right if I start?
Oh, yeah, please.
Good. As you know, the program that's called City Watch is a subcommittee of the Health and Safety Committee. And we've been working towards an implementation of the pilot program. We hit a reset button this last meeting a little bit because based on what we were doing in the pilot, we actually were having Jamie and Catherine and David and Rob Tedderman and myself actually walking around town as if we were functioning as a City Watch committee. And we recognized, based on the pictures we were taking and the chats we were having on the WhatsApp, that there was still yet some confusion. And the confusion mainly was around crime and the City Watch program. There is another program nationally. It's called the Crime Watch, the Crime Stoppers program. It has one or the other, depending on whether it's sponsored by the National Sheriff's unit or the another community unit. The City Watch program is one that extends beyond crime. We're not just interested in seeing if somebody kicks in a door or breaks a window or steals a car or is committing a crime, because that's a 911 problem. And we all are, as good citizens, responsible to safely make a 911 call. And we'll take care of that anyway. We're not trying to duplicate that. We're not even trying to do it. Our program, the City Watch program, has been developed as a quality of life program. We're more interested in a person sleeping on the sidewalk, somebody, a broken sprinkler head in a public park, an obstacle in the sidewalk that you might trip over like I did Saturday. I was walking through the Rosemary District trying to catch up on all the things happening there. I'm going down and I'm looking off to the side at the new restaurant, wonderful looking restaurant. And there was a manhole kind of access to an electric cable, but straight up was the latch. And I'm walking along and I hit that and tripped and luckily have yet still enough balance to not fall on my face or break both wrists. But those are the kinds of things. So I took a picture of it, and that's the kinds of things we're looking at. We're also looking at things like graffiti on a building, graffiti on trash containers, on signs, for two reasons. One, they're unsightly, and we'd like to get them reported and off. And two, it's a form of a broken window, if you know the broken window kind of thing. It could be the beginning of something more serious, and it isn't as serious yet. So we want to know where those kinds are going, where those kinds of things are going. Routinely, we have cars parked illegally in alleys, downtown especially, which is prohibitive to some vehicles, emergency vehicles, being able to even get down the alleys, and they need to do that. Trash trucks not able to get down the alley at times. So we are looking at those kinds of things, reporting them and categorizing them, and then reporting them to the responsible agency in the city for their ability to fix these kinds of things. So based on that, we adopted a set of principles or categories that would be for the crime, for the City Watch program, for quality of life kinds of things, and we put in a component for Crime Stop. And the Sarasota Police Department is working with us. In fact, they're the ones who had asked us to take a look at maybe having this kind of a neighborhood program. And they will make appropriate presentations at our workshops that we start to have for volunteers for this program about how to use the 911 system and the responsibility of the individuals in those systems. So based on that, we're making good progress. We'll have another meeting and hopefully we'll be starting to train some volunteers shortly thereafter to include more evidence of what we can do to improve the downtown pilot area. Yes, Ken?
Is there a process for reporting graffiti?
There is. And it goes through the Fix-It program to a person named Diane.
Diane Kennedy in code compliance.
Right, code
She's
compliance.
she's been very, very helpful to me, and I'm happy to be the graffiti guy if you've got any.
Well, we've had graffiti on our building and adjacent to our building, Russ and Selby Gardens, and recently. We did exactly what you're talking about. We tried to get it covered up as quickly as possible so it wouldn't be copycatted.
Okay, all right, thank you, Peter. Transportation, Roger?
Yes, let me kind of, this is rising on our agenda, I think, because of various things happening. And so I just want to take a minute to put a context to it. You know, SCAT was our official, poorly named organization that provided public transit. And the SCAT station processes over 500,000 people a year. It's one of the busiest points in downtown and has been constantly. And there's been a long-term discussion about moving it. And that discussion continues. I know the Chamber of Commerce is focused on it, and there may be some changes in the organization and operation of SCAT that may make that come forward. You know, SCAT tends to have, I say this cautiously, you know, it's for poor people. I'm not sure how many people here at the table have ridden it in the last month or year, and probably not very many. We used to use it, my wife and I, to take routes 4 and 8 over to Lido, and they had such low ridership that they canceled. And okay, so that was step one. We attempted the I-Ride downtown, the electric vehicles, and they were cute and they looked really nifty, and the management of the program, I think it was so poor that it failed and was withdrawn. And so it went away. The thing that then moved to success is the Bay Runner, with a grant from the FDOT to the city for a 3-year program, has been a phenomenal success. This year, 150,000 riders and more each year. My wife rode it this morning and it was full. And she was able to hit the last year. People love it. And it's working well with the staff. The thing that, at least for, I think, us, was the Breeze on Demand. I think we probably have seen them. I'm not sure how many people here have ridden there. And again, I think going back to perceptions of what it can do. It, however, its service has been expanded to Longboat, the entire length of Longboat, because the Manatee has asked the staff to do that. And it serves Longboat, Lido, and downtown. A particular part of downtown that, there's a map here, to David's consummation, it leaves Rosemary out, and that probably is an oversight. They do have, of course, new management of SCAT, and her name is Jane Gregg, and people seem to be quite impressed. I have personally not met her. Continuing though with the breeze, the next step was the 76 flyer, which starts next week, which gives you passage from the airport, SRQ, to downtown hotels, 5 different downtown hotels. And the tourist bureau said that approximately 50,000 people who land at SRQ stay in our downtown hotels. So the potential for this seems pretty good. I think we're all interested in what we can do to create a mobility system downtown. We like the concept of the I-Line, the breeze. Maybe it can be incorporated into a higher usage. And I'm going to stop because I know David wants to make some comments. And
yeah, I will make the comment that with Mark Smith's help, to some extent, I was contacted by a county person kind of in charge of the on-demand. And we talked about this a few weeks ago. She called me yesterday, and they're getting a cost to expand the zone to include all of the Rosemary. It stops at Fruitville right now. So it seems like an opportunity to, you know, at least as a Band-Aid, I don't know, it's not ultimately probably the final answer, but it could be enhanced service and with everything that's going to be going on in the Rosemary and other areas of downtown, like what's happening at the Quay when that apartment building opens, or what happens at the one down by the movie theater, which is 400 apartments. So I think with the Commissioner Smith's help and with our advocacy, we may be getting some attention of the county and try and find a way to work together on this and draw city staff into it so nobody gets annoyed. And we kind of find a way, because it looks like there could be some opportunities, some relatively low-hanging fruit. So
I would invite all of you to join me, not personally necessarily, but let's spend $2 and ride the breeze on demand so that we know what it's like, what it takes. I heard a woman yesterday brag about how excited she was that it came within 15 minutes. It took her where she wanted to go. She thought it was really good stuff. So it's an invitation.
Roger, does it have an app? They have an app?
Yes, they do have an app, like the Breeze. The Breeze has an app, and the Bay Runner has an app, and the Breeze has an app.
You know, and just the Bay Runner, I've noticed people getting off SCAT in uniform that go service the beaches, hotels or whatever. And they get off SCAT and they walk right up and get on the Bay Runner.
Oh, yes.
And that's used quite heavily in the morning and in the evening. They come and go. So it's great.
Yeah, you're right. Employees are using it. That's how many fewer cars are being.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
We gotta find a better place to pick up passengers than
Then the middle of Main Street.
Yeah, right.
That I don't know.
Where they stop and then we can go.
Have we ever really sat down and done any kind of study to address the issue of how many people who work downtown, who actually work that use our public service? Have we, one of the questions, David, I know came up with Lonnie, was he called it a mess from
the Bayfront.
Yeah, from the Bayfront going northbound. I'm just wondering, it's going to be a while before we have affordable housing. I mean, it's going to be a long one. And the reasonable question is for the poor folks, how are you going to get them in and out of wherever they're living? And if you live like we do across the street from, the basic services, you can just see it from 4:30 on, guys walking to their cars, you know? So my question is there some kind of a transportation system that we can realistically look at and try to sit down and talk to the city, whomever else, to actually provide transportation for people who are working downtown, they're hustling their butts off, how to get from one place to another, where they live right now?
Good idea. I'm not quite sure how to approach it. One of the problems we have, of course, is that people live all kinds of places. And transit tends to work best for a group who focus from one place to the other. But I think it's well worth pursuing.
And a lot of people who live in Wading that somehow they'll figure out how to get
here.
And maybe, just maybe, there's a possibility of looking realistically at some kind of transportation system if we know where they live.
So, Roger, it would seem like if there's a interest in looking at relocating the downtown transfer station for SCAT, that would be one of the key issues is if using it, where are they coming from, and then where are they going, and you need to make sure that there's a connection.
Yes.
Like the bait runner doesn't stop at the transfer station, does it? So where do you have to transfer? I mean, that should be one of the transfers. It's like, going into an airport, you've got trains and buses all right there, pick from,
Oh, I think your point is well taken in the sense of, like you said, half a million people use the transfer station. It's never been popular downtown, and now it's too small. What the current structure of transit, as I understand it, is to have an area in which all kinds of transportation systems interact. So you can get on the bus to Bradenton, you can get on the I-Ride or the Breeze and get to your work.
But they have to be planned to interact. Not, we're central here and you're central there, and you, Mr. Worker, you gotta walk 2 blocks in the rain to make that transfer.
Well, then we need SCAT. Oh, the good news, I think, is that SCAT appears to be more sensitive to local needs than it ever has been in the past.
That's a good point, Richard. I'm sure a study would be looked at.
The interaction that we need to have, not just with Sarasota County government, but also with them. I mean, what they're doing, and the people who are moving back and forth, and you can just see it. They are grouping themselves together. They're taking turns driving people back and forth in and out of town.
Well, currently, the only way to get from Manatee down to Sarasota is a bus, the Manatee bus that runs. And I'm aware of that bus. I have no idea how popular or how efficient it is.
Pretty full. I mean, not full.
Yeah, okay, people in it.
People use it.
2 other items on, if I may, Roger, on Boulevard of the Arts, 10th and Fruitville. I talked to Nick Patel yesterday in anticipation of the meeting. Design work on Boulevard of the Arts and 10th is proceeding. I think we were told before that they wanted to get to what is called 60% drawings. When you get to 60% drawings, the last 40% is a bit easier, so as to speak. So almost at 60%, they're deemed quasi shovel ready. Nick says they're making progress. They are tentatively set March 28th as another community engagement show and tell for what they've got. So what I think we should be doing between now and the 28th is seeing if we can get a sneak peek at what they've got in mind, so the cake isn't too far baked before we see it. But on Boulevard of the Arts and 10th, they are making progress. By the end of this month, the city is also reapplying for the RAISE grant. Haven't gotten 2 times, to be honest with you.
The 10th grant?
RAISE, it's called RAISE. I don't know what it's an acronym for. It's a federal grant. looking for about $12 million. That would, if it was successful, fund maybe 80% or so of those two projects. Would know the results of who got the grant or not in June or July. So, well, at least from a design standpoint, Boulevard Yards and Tenant C. On Fruitville, they're in the midst of a traffic study now, and I was walking across there, and they've got all sorts of sensors up on the poles there, measuring speed, numbers, pedestrian crossings. And this is being done in season, post the construction of the roundabouts after COVID. So I think the feeling is the data that is obtained now is more or less normal, whatever normal is. And so the question becomes on Fruitville, they have $200,000 in the budget this year, I guess, for this study stuff. What gets in the budget, you know, the capital budget or whatever in years forward? And of course, I think we should, DSCA has formally taken a position about doing something to Fruitville. And I think we should be continuing to advocate for what staff has in mind for funding of that in logical stages. So that's good news, in my opinion, that all those projects are moving ahead somewhat in line with what has been discussed in the past.
David, can I ask a question? Has there been any follow-up on the issue of staging that's being going on now that you got the Bayside up, and over the next 3-4 years, we're going to see a whole bunch of new properties going up 18 stories?
Staging for new construction.
Yes.
Well, I think that's the dirty little secret, you know, the elephant in the room that there's a lot of discussion about. I think that I know Patrick has been very, in particular, one of your passions of what plans are. I was trying to make the case that staging, there should be some discussion of a need for staging plans at the DRC level. I mean, why not start talking about staging earlier in the process, so it's on the radar screen. But I can't answer your question, I mean, about specific projects, other than
I think Patrick's doing a hell of a job, but I think it's an issue that Bayside folk, BLED folk, the Ritz folk, all have to be concerned with in view of what's going to be happening in the next 3 to 5 years. And I certainly hope it will take a position, because as I understand it, it's not a zoning question.
Well, it's a combination, and then you get into huge safety issues. Unfortunately, just to cite one, last Saturday, walking back from downtown, crossing Fruitville on the crosswalk there, and then I take, it's supposed to be the scenic merge behind the Meso and Ritz number 6, block number 6. And as I'm passing there, I see a car exit the Meso southbound to the scenic merge, turns left, heading east. And guess what? It encounters the sidewalk merge and takes a right turn and proceeds down the sidewalk merge until it gets to the new bicycle shop where there's a curb cut, and then it enters into 41 heading south. I guess they have discovered that they don't have to go back out around onto Fruitville. No, because there are no bollards at the end of that scenic merge. So those were taken up during construction. I think there used to be when it was first put in, and they've not been put back. So there's a number of things that occur during construction that significantly impact. And of course, the scenic merge was closed for 2.5 years. But I'm just pointing that those are radical issues. And as the infill is going more and more, there's less empty spaces for all the extra construction, staging, crews, parking, all that sort of stuff. So it's beginning to affect the safety as well as the enjoyment of the downtown.
Frankly, I don't know what to do about it. Other than ask for commissioner's help. I mean, if this could be an agenda item,
I can just bring it to the attention of the.
Okay. Moving ahead, Architectural Sarasota Speaker Series, there have been 2. There's one next week. The Duani presentation, by the way, is available, a link on YouTube to watch his, and then the David Hools will be available soon. So I'm told these next 2 speakers are going to be good also, so I'm encouraging everybody to attend. Restaurants, bars, and nightclubs did come before the commission 2-3 weeks ago. It's coming back. One thing, a group of 3 of us did meet with Mr. Fournier, Marlon, and Steve Cover, and others, and had some discussions. It was represented, and I don't know how to say this delicately, there was an implication in somebody's highlight report that, you know, we met with them. I will tell you, we made 3 recommendations and not one was taken. So I haven't seen what's happened on the second reading, but just because we met with folks and were complimented by Mr. Brown as having a productive session, the proof is in the pudding, and I don't think that our remarks got very far, but you know, I'm hopeful maybe something at the 11th hour might change it. I will also say that Bandito's Restaurant, this is the one right underneath the mark, Jim. The permitting for that is continuing to be looked at. So it was at first applied for a year ago. It is still in the permitting approval process, independent of what happens with these new ZTAs and so on. Obsidian, as that was pulled, and I'm told that a new Obsidian 2 may be coming forward. They'll have to start the process again, right? As whereas the One Park, reincarnation of One Park is One Tower, the site plan has been applied for that, and that will be the process.
They changed the name.
I believe they're
To
using One
1100
Park.
Broadway.
Well,
They are.
yeah, they're advertising. I think they're still calling. Another, this gets a little in the weeds. I'm sorry, but I think it's important. It was in your board packet. Some requests for an alley vacation by the. Oh, great. This is the Toasted Mango, okay? This is the BLVD condos, and this area is Fruitville to 5th. And coincidentally, to some extent, 3 projects are coming forward here. A developer has apparently assembled in this one box. He is at the DRC this morning where I was there. There was a discussion. He was asking for an alley vacation in this area, which was, shall we say, there was an indication that that wasn't going to happen. This area in the hashed area is before the planning board in about a week to remove some proffers to allow, instead of 3 or 5 story buildings, 10 stories. And this is a 10-story condo building working its way through the system. Why am I talking about this? I have made the case that could we get the developers together with city staff in a community for what I'm going to call a street plan for 4th and 5th while this is underway. There's some wonderful, you may have seen in the image, I sent some wonderful amenity strips along here, 6-7 feet wide, grass, and would be ripe for planting of canopy trees all along this. This is the area here. Whoop. which is wider than normal. Now, yes, there are some utility issues under there, but some of these utilities the water line may have to be upgraded anyway. So I've been in touch with Lucia, and she's working with Steve Cover and Doug Jeffcoat, and I've talked to 4 developers, and it seems like there's a willingness to see if something might be put together in what I will call a street plan treatment, if, you know, a vision, if you will, for this whole area, which would be something unique. So let's see how that goes. Any comments?
And David, you ran that by us, and I think it's a wonderful idea. But if there was ever a time that we need the building reps to be in a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
If there's ever a time we need to have people listening to the conversation, you know, this is it.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna have independent responsibility to bring this to their own buildings. Just so everybody knows, I have given up my spot as the building rep for BLPD. We'll have a new building rep taking place because it's just too much. I can't sit here and sit there. And my building is very appreciative of all the help you, Patrick particularly, Peter, Fanning, have given us to understand the breadth and scope of this problem. But none of us walked in here from Mississippi, New York, and every place else dreaming that we would fall into what we've fallen into. Hence, it's absolutely critical that we make sure that the building reps know that you got a serious responsibility. Just learning the language is enough to drive you half crazy. And so the reality is, when we're gonna be having people, we wanna have a negotiation, a 3 or 4-way negotiation with people, the building reps gonna have to go through some serious learning responsibilities, real fast, real quick, and then to bring it to the attention of their folk on a regular basis.
So some of this came out of the blue. The alley vacation thing, I only learned about 10 days ago. So we're, you know, earlier in the process, and it's kind of bad news, good news. The good news is all 3 of them are kind of coming together, and there may be somewhat of a unique opportunity to do something that I'm not sure has ever been done in the city.
Is there a definition of an alley vacation?
Their definition?
What is the definition of an alley vacation? What does that mean?
It's a city alley.
It doesn't mean a cruise.
Sorry, I'm getting that.
Vacation means the city vacates, gives back the public access rights that were given to them. When the plat was laid out, there was this 4th Street down the middle. Everything to the middle line was the property of that property owner. And then there was an easement, or actually a right of way, where they give it back to the city for the sidewalks, roadway, etc. And when you vacate it, you essentially allow the property owners on either side to acquire that. So when you have this case, somebody who's bought properties on either side of the alley, they're saying, we own both sides, so why shouldn't we do what we want to in the middle with the streetlights? And one of the things that was brought up at the Tamiami thing you talked about was you need to save yourself from increases in the heat island effect by keeping the alleyways and streetways open. It says the breeze is what will save you from heat island increases. And if we block off our alleyways, streetways, we lose that cooling effect.
So there's an opportunity here, and again, everything about from here over is bayfront, so that's 18 stories, and this is all essentially 10 stories right now. So you're talking about a lot of dwelling units at the same time, I see an opportunity for at least a street plan as a possibility.
A comment, and that is, if the city were willing to give up its alley for the developer, what is the developer willing to give the city in terms of setbacks or construction or utilities? This should be, it could be, let's put it that way, a trading process, not a giveaway.
Oh, yeah, I think that's where the horse trading, either wedding cake more or setbacks or improvement of infrastructure or whatever, but, and all 4th and 5th are primary grid streets. So the developer is going to be needing wishing for some driveway curb cuts in there that would be some of the exceptions. I'm sorry to go a little too far with this, but I think it's an important opportunity, and it could also be a bit of a nightmare if it's not managed appropriately.
Well, after our conversation, you know, and I attempted to talk this over with some other people at BRPD, the concept of what a proffer is, and whether or not it's a meaningless commentary in the mind of a developer is also something I'd like some clarification on. You say you're going to do something, and then all of a sudden you proffer that you're not. That really doesn't help us understand exactly what we're going to be doing with this eventual negotiation, which, by the way, I think is a great idea. So getting some clarification on this issue, if only from Mr. Fournier. You know, can somebody walk into a situation, proffer that they're going to do something, and then change their mind?
Yeah, and I'd be the first to say I know enough to be dangerous about some of this stuff, right? So I need help. You know, people we know more, and we'll all be learning together and, you know, in close communication. Okay.
Dave, you mentioned that Fifth Street is a primary grid street. I don't think it is from central going east. That was.
Oh, I see. Okay, I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Bay Park Conservancy. Is there somebody said something about a good presentation. I don't have anything new. I do know that Philip DeMario is taking what was Bill Liddell's position. I don't know what the exact responsibilities are, but there appears to be somewhat of a replacement, if that's the right word for Bill. So I don't know what the phasing for that was. CCNA, I attended the meeting. I don't have anything in particular to report. They are tentatively planning a candidates forum debate, or whatever you want to call it, in June, if I'm not mistaken. Rosemary District, park, the work on the park has stopped again. It's work on the park has stopped for 2.5 weeks now. It is said to be a permitting issue, which I am not understanding. I talked to Jerry Fogel last week. I don't have any updates for you. A significant new restaurant will open within the next 2 weeks at Boulevard of the Arts in Central, so anticipate more traffic, parking potential issues and stuff like that. But even though the park's not proceeding, 150 seat restaurant is going to be open, and it's going to be great.
Do you know who's responsible for pulling the permit for the park? I mean, is it the city? Is it a city agency?
It's here's what I think happened on this park. Kimley Horn was doing the work, and then they were let go.
Right.
And the city is kind of generaling it itself. So
First-hand experience of what we all have experienced in getting.
And I've been told that by doing it that way, they will save $200,000. And I sure hope this turns out well. It's not been it's been a problem.
So who's the captain of the ship?
Yeah, it's Jerry Fogel in Parks and Records.
He's the guy who promised to be completed by Christmas.
Right, right.
A quick intervention before you jump.
Yeah.
I know it sounded like a homeless committee when I gave the community watch, but that wasn't entirely, because I want to make a solicitation now that Clark is back. I have a whole agenda for the next meeting. I don't have a place to meet. And Clark has been graciously enough, but he's been out of commission a little bit. So if any of you, have can volunteer a meeting place of some sort.
It's fine. It's
Or I'll continue to work through Clark. I didn't want to. Okay, I do have, and we have some serious issues up. The legislature is actively working on bills that impact the homeless population and our community. Let me just mention two: House Bill 1365 and Senate Bill 1530, its companion, is camping and public sleeping, which I think we need clarification on, although we have a good set of codes in the ordinances in our own city. But the legislation would preempt local government authority and prohibit cities and counties from authorizing or permitting such things. Again, it's the state taking over the role of the local area, and I'm a home rule local advocate. We need to maybe find out on the committee what the city's doing, how they're going to approach this kind of legislation. The other one is panhandling, a unique approach on panhandling. When we as a not-for-profit solicit funds, we have to submit a application and get a license and et cetera. So this bill proposes that anybody, a homeless person, would have to submit the same kind of application and get a special license to stand on the street corner and raise funds. Well, I think that's pretty much overkill of something we can take care of much quicker locally. And then nationally, there's a couple of things going on that might impact us around permanent affordable housing, increasing revenues, and dollars for living, et cetera. So we got a lot on the agenda that we could do, and I'll work with Clark and get a meeting set up for the end of February. Okay. Thank you, and you're welcome back for other reasons, but not just that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and Jamie and Annika, you're on.
All right, thank you. Hey, everyone, I'm Ani Comantis. I'm with Berg Simpson Law Firm. I do their marketing for a construction defect law firm. I'm also assistant liaison to Jamie with this organization. I'm going to introduce the platinum members that help make this group happen. So let's start with Michelle.
Hello, happy February. Michelle Sidlatsky, Assistant Vice President of City National Bank, Workforce Association Services Bank, offering reserve accounts, CDs, loans. I've been getting starting to get some calls on, we might need a loan. So I know there's a lot of projects and repairs coming up with the SERS and milestone inspections in phase 1s and phase 2. So if you have a lot of projects, it's best to try to lump them all together and consider one big loan because you can't get multiple loans on a building. But I talk to people just to be special assessed and not borrow. You can do that too. So I'm always willing to walk through the options and hope you all have that discussion. So if anybody wants to chat about lending for their association, I'm happy to be available.
Hot wire.
Hi, everybody. You all know me, and I thank you once again for allowing us to sponsor your activities. Hotwire's fiber optic network is growing very, very quickly. It started in 2024. We are in the process of finalizing contracts with 2 downtown Sarasota condominiums, and we have pending proposals with 3 others. So we are growing quickly. We're very excited about possibilities in downtown and bringing our fiber to communities like all of yours.
Paul with ServPro. Sure. Platinum member.
I'm Paul Schott. I am the marketing rep for ServPro of Sarasota. We are your emergency services provider for water damage, mold damage, fire, smoke, soot damage, and also storm season. Doesn't seem like it ever goes away. So, make a long story short, we are your provider, the biggest in the area here. We have been specializing only on the mitigation side, just stopping the damage and cleaning it up. And now we're aggressively getting into the reconstruction side of the house. And so we can be your one-stop provider for everything. So thank you for having me.
You got Fred over the nose.
Always a pleasure to be with you. Unique retirement residence, you know it well. Good lesson, thank you. I'm proud to work for Rusty Blix, who many of you know, who purchased that property 50 years ago. His family was involved in Golden Gate Point and the St. Armand's Lutheran Church. We have just wrapped up today. Don Fitz is the guy you usually see, finishing up Gray Matters and the mocha test. It was so popular 2 weeks ago, we had 50 people, had to rerun it again today. 50 more people, a lot of interest in Gray Matters, brain kind of thing. That's a community service that Alderman Oaks brings to the community. So just think of us as you all know, people, if you need a meeting room, right in your neighborhood, Alderman Oaks. Good to see you.
That might work.
We all set? Yep. Okay. Any comments from member representatives? Anybody got anything to say? Okay, if not, our next meeting is March 6th, and as somebody said, Mary Benzel from Van Weissel is going to be our guest speaker, and we look forward to that. So without any further ado, shall we?
Just wanted to fill in on some of your conversation.
Pardon?
Just wanted to fill in on some of your conversation you had on transportation. Just fill in some information on transport. You had some questions. 1 minute.
Oh, okay.
1 minute. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Metropolitan Regional Organization, the MPO. I'm the member representative, and Mayor Alfred is as well. Eric Arroyo is our alternate. And I would highly recommend you look into that and seeing if you can have some sort of like an advisory role. I'm also on the public transportation task force for the MPO, which is a subcommittee of it. And they plan regionally for transportation. And Sarasota County and Manatee County worked together, and there's a shuttle service that they engage for people who live out in Mayaca and Arcadia and they come in. There are services like vans that companies can hire, hotels, restaurants, and so on and so forth, that do transport people back and forth. It's not free, but it does exist. And it's just something to look into and think about. On that vein as well, so I would just look into the NPO and everything that they do, what they talk about. The bills that Peter Fanning was talking about, and you all were talking about trolleys. So our trolley is funded, yes, as Roger Berry was correct, partially with a grant from FDOT. That grant is not permanent. It was extended, it was lessened, but it was extended for another 3 years. We have to make up that money somewhere. Where do we get the lion's share of those funds? From our business tax fund. It's about $780,000. The trolley costs wonderful. We love it. We want to keep it. We want to expand it. We want to support it. But it's not a business tax. Shouldn't be funded with that money. It is, but it shouldn't be. We're trying to figure out ways where we can find a rational nexus to fund it. It does cost $7 about and 40 cents a ride. So it is subsidized by our business tax dollars and the DID and the bid and then the grant all together make the trolley happen. It's a lot of money for a ride. We all love it and we think it's worth it, but we need to figure out different funds. And on that vein is a bill at the state right now to preempt municipalities from collecting a business tax. We collect $940,000 and that would go away if this bill passes. So I went to Tallahassee and said to all of them, been to downtown Sarasota, like the trolley? Yeah, we do. That's what we use our business taxes for. So I just want to say, if you want to be active in Tallahassee, your voice to me matters, your voice to them matters. I can connect David with the way you can write them, write to Joe Gruters, write to Fiona McFarland, write to Robinson, write to all of them, Tommy Gregory, even if you don't know them and they don't represent you directly, write to them and ask them, please don't do away with this business tax.
And just one point, Commissioner. One thing our group did observe, if parking fees are going up, whatever happens, Broxton at one time talked as much as $3 million, and it probably won't be that much. but could that money be sequestered
Yes.
into a fund used just for
Yes.
transportation?
Yes.
Such as the trolley?
Exactly. And then trolley could also, because you could argue that it's a resiliency effort. And so you could get funds from resiliency efforts, grants and things like that. So we're just trying to take some of the money from that business tax that we use, because it can be argued that it does provide, transportation for businesses, but we don't have any money left to help our businesses. So we want to pull away from that fund and use another fund. But we can't even have this conversation or a trolley if we don't have a business tax. For the immediate future, I mean. So I think that's a really important piece of your discussion.
Quick question.
Yes.
Didn't we see on the last agenda that we pay into for an advocate for city government in Tallahassee?
We do. Oh, yes. We
So
do.
you
So we
go-
have a lobbyist too, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we do. But your voice matters. I mean, this happened during the vacation rentals a couple of years ago. And I sent it out to a resident on the Keys, talking about vacation rentals, with two representatives at Tallahassee call our lobbyist and say, those people from Sarasota, please make it stop. I'll vote however they want me to, but please make it stop. And so it's in your voice, your reaching out is impactful, and now's the time. You have about halfway through there. So I would encourage you, if you want to contact David. David, I can give you the information. It's really easy to get involved.
Can you give him the information about the regional group?
Yes, about MPO, yeah. MPO, yep. It's, yep.
Like, do the workers actually pay these? I mean, is there a contribution to the workers possible?
Oh, you mean do the workers pay for that transportation? No, it's a service provided by the county and the Manatee and Sarasota County.
And does the city contribute to that?
No, it's regional. It's out in like Mayaka and Arcadia and out in the unincorporated parts of Sarasota County. But they do it. Now, the extent of it, I mean, there has to be a need, there has to be a certain minimum number of people and all of that. But there is discussion. And do we need more discussion? Yes. More coordination? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And Bus 99 is great, by the way. I take it, Bus 99, I take it. It's great. It goes right downtown. It's easy
The
and
one that
simple.
goes by BLVD.
Yes.
Yeah, down there.
Yes.
On Coconut. Thank you.
And
All
sorry,
right.
I have to leave. I've got another meeting I gotta go
Thanks for
to.
coming.
Okay, and everybody stick around for a glass of wine. Okay, thanks.